Ladies and gentlemen, good day to all of you. In international news, at last, an official statement from the Russian Federation has just been released. Yes, a statement from one of the senior officials of the Russian Security Council. It is Dmitry Medvedev, former president of the Russian Federation, former prime minister, and the current deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation. When we talk about the Russian Federation and the Security Council, we know what this body, this institution, represents in the context of Russia's military actions. For now, we do not yet have an official statement from Vladimir Putin, at least as far as I know, based on all the research and information we have received. But the Security Council, the Vice President of the Security Council, is very clear. Russia promises to punish Ukraine. Here is the promise that has been made. Everything that needs to blow up will blow up. Here is the short phrase that sums up everything we've heard, which are certainly rumors attributed to Vladimir Putin. So if this comes from the mouth of the Vice President of the Russian Security Council, it means that Russian forces are truly preparing. Let's dive deep, ladies and gentlemen. Let's dive deep. And so, what must be said is that the Vice President of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Medvedev, declares the following. He says, Russia will inevitably retaliate against acts of sabotage committed by the Ukrainian army. And it is in a statement he published, in a message he posted on the 3rd of June 2025 on his Telegram channel, that he asserts the following. He says, the Russian armed forces are continuing their offensive, and punishment for the Kiev regime is inevitable. So it's as if to say that Russia is continuing in the same vein. Since this happened, Russia has continued with strikes of the same intensity that it has always used against Ukraine. For now, there hasn't been a strike so massive that it will leave people speechless. No, Russia continues to strike as it usually does. And it continues to gain ground little by little, step by step. That's generally how Russia operates. When people expect Russia to do something very big, yes, before Russia does it, Russia just keeps up with its activities, its daily tasks. How to keep taking back localities, how to send 1,300, 1,400 enemy soldiers to their eternal rest, how to destroy 3, 4, 5 ammunition depots in different areas. That's what Russia keeps doing. So that means that the Russian soldiers on the ground, according to Dmitry Medvedev, the Russian soldiers on the ground keep going slowly but surely. Now, a new action, a new deliberate action of very large scale is coming and will happen, according to Dmitry Medvedev. He continues, when he says that Ukraine will receive punishment, the word punishment, as we know, is public. It's much more of biblical origin. It means a suffering that truly has no end. There you have it. So he continues. He says this. He says, Russia will not back down in the face of Ukrainian provocations. So according to his perspective, what Ukraine undertook was, in his view, a clear and undeniable act of provocation. What Ukraine did was a provocation. So Russia will not back down. He says, our army is advancing actively and will continue its offensive. Those who must be. And this phrase he added is heavy. I don't know if I should use the exact word to avoid getting in trouble with the platform. So he says, those who must. That is the word, I don't want to use it. He says, it's the ultimate form of eternal rest. The act of sending several people to eternal rest at the same time. Several people to eternal rest at the same time. I don't want to put the word in the sentence, otherwise it's extreme. There you go. You can finish the rest. You have to be careful with this platform. So it says, all those who must be exterminated will disappear. Everything that is meant to blow up will blow up. That's a very strong word. But the question we ask ourselves is, will it be limited to just simple statements? Because after all, Russia, you have to admit that the Russians are very strong when it comes to making statements. They can make a statement and you feel satisfied. You say, this time, that's it, it's over. But then afterwards, you don't see anything happen, because Vladimir Putin, he is extremely wise, too kind. It's often said, too much kindness gets boring. So Dmitry Medvedev claims that Moscow's strategy remains unchanged. According to him, enemy structures will continue to be relentlessly targeted, and those responsible for these acts will receive a direct response. Now, this is where it gets complicated. Those responsible for this act will receive a direct response. However, we are still learning that foreign countries are involved, especially Germany, and above all, the United Kingdom, which are said to have contributed through intelligence and really contributed to these acts that were carried out. And so, Russia is getting ready. Well, since Russia is known for its surprises, we saw over the weekend just how many times Russia has done some has done some dirty work in Ukraine, which even made Donald Trump act differently, even pushing him to end his relationship with Vladimir Putin. So this man doesn't stop there. He also talks about the negotiations. He makes it clear that Russia doesn't care at all about these negotiations. Yes. What does he say? He says, there you go. He says, the Russian delegation handed over. No, I can't find it. There, I found it. He says, the Istanbul talks are not meant for a compromise based on unrealistic conditions invented by others. So, according to Russia, the conditions that have been presented by Ukraine, on which the negotiations are supposed to be based, are unrealistic conditions that have been invented. He continues. He says, but for our swift victory and the total destruction of the neo-Nazi regime. So that means Russia is entering these negotiations not to reach a compromise. But if Russia is to reach a compromise, that compromise must signify Russia's victory over the neo-Nazis. And that's why Russia's position, as you may have noticed even in the memorandum, we talked about it even in the memorandum, Russia's position has not changed at all. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that was the top story in the news. I'll be back with more information shortly. This was the voice of your one and only Samurai.